So you're a founder posting consistently, but the kind of content you're posting is not actually getting you clients. Like you always hear, oh, if you post as a founder, then people are going to be knocking down your door trying to buy your service, but that's not really happening to you. So recently you've been thinking, maybe I should just start posting more. Did I get that right? Here's the thing. Posting more absolutely can help, but posting a lot of random content and severely increasing your volume can absolutely burn you out, and I do not want you to make this mistake. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how you should go about this so that your content actually starts landing your clients. I promise, it's possible. Here's when posting more absolutely will help you move the needle forward in your business. Here's the thing. Posting more, it allows you to iterate a lot faster. And why is that good? If you're a founder who's new to content and you're doing this all by yourself, okay, and you're not clear on your positioning, your strategy, you're just kind of like, okay, well, I know I need content for my business, so I'm just gonna create some content then I would absolutely recommend posting as much as you humanly can, content that is still aligned, okay? But posting as much as you can, because then you can experiment with different content formats, you can figure out what you feel the most comfortable with, and you can also see in real time what performs the best. Content is one of the things where you immediately have a response, whether this works or this doesn't in the business. Volume essentially speeds up your learning, but it does not help you convert, which brings me to my second point. Here's when posting more stops working. Here's the thing. A lot of founders increase their posting volume without increasing their clarity. There are different schools of thought about this and different approaches. For example, Gary Vee, which is someone I absolutely respect, he is of the belief that you should post as much as you humanly can. You want to post about steak that you had for dinner, post about that. You want to post about the fact that you're picking up your grandma from the airport, post about that, and then also post about your business somewhere in between, okay? But this may work for some founders, especially because we're currently in the age of interest media. It's not social media. Just because you follow someone, their content doesn't get shown to you over and over and over again. You get content shown to you based on the stuff that you actually are interested in. But the problem here, even though that approach may increase your visibility, right? It's not going to be the kind of strategic visibility you want. It's not going to be the kind of authority that you want, which actually drives conversions, ka-ching, ka-ching, for your business. Think about the most authoritative person that you know in business with a very strong brand. First person that comes to mind, Alex Hormozi, the absolute king of content, marketing, sales, whatever. He's really awesome. Do you see him posting about what he ate for breakfast? No. But does he post wider content about relationships and self-improvement? Yes. However, that content is funneled through his lens, which is his personal brand. And your personal brand essentially is people's perception of you. So even in those wider content formats, which is like top of funnel content, right? If we have a little visual right here, it's basically extending your reach as much as possible. Then they funnel down to long form content, which is like very business specific, etc., etc. And then he gets to the meat, which is exactly what he sells. But even though Alex Hormozi is posting a lot of content, probably more than anyone in the game, all of his content has a ton of clarity. So that kind of content actually serves him. It does not confuse his audience. In fact, he becomes instantly recognizable in their minds. So here's what actually works for most founders, the founders that we work with at VFactor Social. In terms of posting, we typically do not post more than one video per day for most of our clients. We create one video, one post, and then that gets distributed to their core platforms. And that video is very high quality, okay? It speaks directly to the client's, the founder's positioning in terms of how they want to be perceived, which is why that video is so powerful in attracting strategic visibility, which is the kind of people that we want them to see the content. An example, we worked with a guy in private equity, very knowledgeable guy, like he has been in it for his entire life. And the kind of content we created, if you were to see his LinkedIn, you'd be like, oh, that's really boring. It's like, this is not super exciting, you know, there's no trends, there's no crazy angles, it's pretty straightforward, right? But that kind of content reinforces his authority so well that a person who is in private equity and an investor perhaps, or someone who runs a family office, which is his direct client, his target client, they watch that content, they're like, wow, that guy really knows what he's talking about. Like, it's eye-opening here, it's eye-opening there. So that content compounds and has been compounding to build authority and trust for that client, which is why we were able to increase his reach to be his exact target audience. Granted, private equity is also a very restrictive, regulatory kind of niche, so you have to be very careful in terms of what you post if you work within that realm, but his message stayed consistent, his recognition built, and his authority compounded. But isn't all visibility good visibility? No, not all PR is good PR. I guess in a sense, it can be, but it's a nuanced topic, so let's talk about it. The belief that we have at VFactor Social is we're not chasing just any visibility for our clients. We're not trying to go viral for the sake of going viral. We're chasing strategic visibility, which is compounding authority, which means ka-ching, ka-ching, in very simple terms. Random visibility is attention without trust. It's just people watching something because you did something crazy, chaotic, new, jumped on a trend, but that doesn't actually convert into clients. Now, strategic visibility is when you build recognition over time. So strategic visibility requires relevance to your work, relevance to your audience, which is exactly what the authority content diagnostic addresses, free to our newsletter subscribers and only exclusive to our newsletter subscribers, okay? And it also requires a repeatable point of view. You have to be recognized for something in your industry. And in fact, I was listening to a podcast with the guy who did marketing for Alex Hormozi and Gary Vee as well. And he said, if you want to grow a personal brand in your authority, okay, so not just grow it, but like grow it strategically, the number one thing to focus on is this exercise where you identify core beliefs within your industry that you do not align with, and then rewrite it in your own belief. Because social media requires polarization to an extent. It should not be fake ever or like manufactured. That polarization needs to come directly from you. But if you do have certain beliefs that like you absolutely just align with, then that's how people start recognizing you in an authoritative way. So when it comes to content, I don't have to repeat this, but your energy is way better spent focusing on what's actually relevant to you and your business, not what's trending. Now let's quickly get technical over here. Where should founders actually post? And I took notes for this. Core platforms, this is absolutely non-negotiable, largely dependent on your industry, but this is what we do for most of our founders. Facebook and Instagram, like this, okay? We're activating that to the fullest extent. Why? Because it's part of the Meta advertising suite. That is where most high-ticket conversions happen. Close second, LinkedIn. It is very slow, it is very steady. However, if you post short-form content, they are favoring that at the moment because it's like a newer feature. A lot of discoverability happens on LinkedIn. In fact, Social have had numerous inquiries from people who found us on LinkedIn. So, and for this, I would not recommend posting to just your company page. I'd recommend activating a personal page and posting to there. And then on the company page, share like company updates and just repost certain things, but keep it on your personal profile. You'll see a lot more growth that way. In terms of other supporting platforms, TikTok, obviously, very low audience loyalty, but great for discoverability, engagement, and overall personal brand digital ecosystem support, and YouTube Shorts as well. It's also great, especially if you want to expand into long-form content. That's if we're talking about short-form content specifically, which is what we specialize in. So you don't need to be everywhere all the time, okay? You just have to focus on key core platforms that you know you can master. So this is not about doing less, it's about doing fewer things that matter, which is why at VFactor Social, one of our core principles, part of our content processes is developing very clear content pillars for our clients that support their overall positioning. So then that way, we're not having to reinvent the wheel with every post. It's very clear, like, okay, this is this content pillar, here's some ideas for this content pillar, here's how it ties into the client and their goals. Here's another content pillar, this one's getting posted on Tuesdays, and here's why that one's important. So then that way, when you're even brainstorming content, if you do this on your own, you can just sit down, be like, okay, it's Tuesday, I need content for the next week. Tuesday is my content pillar number 2, which is all about applied systems, and here's the core, and here's 10 different ideas. Because also that reduces cognitive bandwidth, because instead of having to think about random ideas all the time, you're just focusing on one. Creating content feels really heavy when your thinking is not clear. So you need clarity. That'll make your life a lot easier, which is exactly why we created the Authority Diagnostic for your content as a founder. It is a guided diagnostic, okay? It's not like a content checklist where we walk you through every step of that content process that will help you build authority and make your life a lot easier. Because one of my favorite parts about it is taking information directly from your audience to create content with, by analyzing their comments, things that you've heard in sales calls, things that you've heard in client meetings. So if that's something that you're interested in, it's available only to our newsletter subscribers, nobody else, it's very exclusive. So click the link in my bio to grab your copy and it'll be sent to you automatically. Posting more is not the answer. Posting clear content absolutely is, that is aligned with your strategic positioning and your content goals. So comment what you're focusing on in 2026. And if there's anything I can do to help you and answer any questions, then you know where to go. Comments, because I will be responding.